everyone, welcome back to Face It with Dr. G. I'm Dr. G, and I'm so happy to be here again to talk with you guys. And I just returned from the Aesthetic Extender Symposium, which was a fantastic conference. I had never been before. It was in Miami, and I think I just said that. And it was really, really great. It was simple in the sense that it wasn't tons of different tracks. It was one really large ballroom, and everyone was in there. The room felt really packed. It was beautifully done. The stage was beautiful, and the sponsors, the exhibit hall was awesome. It was all really cohesive at the Fountain Blue, which I also have not stayed at the Fountain Blue in Miami. If you guys have been there, they have the Live Club, and there was an opening party by Evelyn there. My dear friend Erica Berry was the DJ for a little bit. It was really fun. So I highly recommend it. I spoke on the dermatopathology of biostimulation, which honestly is probably the most well-received lecture I've done to date. It was down to the basics, back to the science. And afterwards, I had so many questions that I was essentially kicked off stage, and then a line of, a bunch of people afterwards to give me their questions and feedback. So I loved that. And then I also did one on ultrasound, which I speak on ultrasound a lot, and I try not to duplicate my lectures. This one was a little bit more unique, and I went through some cases, and so it was great. We had a really great time. Saw a lot of friends I hadn't seen in a while, and so I really recommend it. I think next year it's in Boca at the Boca Raton Hotel that looks really beautiful, and it's in, I don't want to misspeak, I think it's in the fall again, but I can't be 100% certain. So anyway, look it up. The Aesthetic Extender Symposium was awesome. So, continuing on from that, I wanted to talk a little bit about that one specific lecture, the dermatopathology of biostimulation, and how incredible it was, and what I talked about, a little bit of it. So obviously you guys know I'm a dermatopathologist, and I think what's forgotten in aesthetics is the true science. And we're told about new treatments, and we're told how they work, but we're told, it's a fibroblast or it's a platelet. But do we really know why that cell's involved and what that cell does? So I structured this lecture on the cells, explained what they do, and then explained how they integrate into certain treatments. So I want to talk specifically about collagen on this podcast, because I think we also throw around the word collagen, and there's so many different types of collagen. There are about 30 different types of collagen in our bodies, and they're not all completely relevant to aesthetics. Actually, the majority of them are not, because all of our organs use or have collagen in them. And one of the questions I got on stage was, do I believe in collagen supplements taken orally or powders? And I do believe in them. I think they're wonderful, but what are they really going to do for you? Are there any studies that demonstrate true efficacy and clinical benefits to taking collagen? Well, no, and also really no when it comes to their effect on the skin. So my belief is that when you take a supplement or collagen orally, your body systems will use that collagen before your skin receives the benefit. So it's better to use things on the skin like ceramides, right? If you think of a ceramide as a product that helps keep the skin cells together and cohesive so that hydration is maintained in the skin. You can use products on the skin that have collagen in them, but I don't believe, number one, I don't believe they're going to be beneficial like an injectable would to stimulate collagen. And number two, I think the body's going to use it if you take it orally before the skin gets it. So hopefully that answers that question. But yeah, back to the different types of collagen. We have many different types of collagen. The ones that are discussed the most are collagen types 1 through 5. And the ones in the skin are types 1 and 3. Collagen is initially made in our bodies as procollagen, and then it's converted into the active form of collagen into fibrils, and those fibrils are wound together to form helices. So they exist in helixes. And type 3 is a more immature collagen. It's a little bit more flexible, and then ultimately over time that type 3 collagen evolves and becomes type 1 collagen, which is more dense, has more tensile strength, and that's what you see in things like bones and tendons, and it is in scar tissue essentially. So what I like to use is big picture. Let's say, for example, you're injecting something like Sculptra. And this is obviously not a CME accredited podcast, so we can say the brand names. And for that lecture, I couldn't, but obviously you get the point. Collagen is an injectable product. It's a polymer, essentially, that creates a wound healing response under the skin and ultimately creates collagen. And that is our overall basic understanding. But what does that really mean? What type of collagen is it? And what can we compare this to make some sort of sense? So when we inject Sculptra, we initially form type 3 collagen with fibroblastic activity, and those fibroblasts are stimulated with different chemicals that come from other cells that are in the inflammatory response. So those are macrophages and lymphocytes and neutrophils and all of those cells that create a foreign body giant cell reaction. They come together because they try to destroy that Sculptra material, or that PLLA, polyl-lactic acid. And in doing so and getting that wound healing response, you are creating somewhat of chaos under the skin. This is not normal behavior. It's wound healing. It's repair. And what else do we create when we have wound healing? We create things like hyaluronic acid. We create things like some elastin, and we create things like collagen. So you're not just getting collagen. And this is a big molecule. This is not a tiny molecule. It's a big molecule, and it becomes a scar ultimately. So this is where we're gonna transition this conversation into. So you have this wound healing, you inject it, you have this wound healing response, foreign body giant cell reaction, and that inflammation has to stop or diminish enough so that regeneration can occur. They can't coexist. Or they can, but what's the balance? So you have the destruction or inflammation, which is necessary to start and enhance that fibroblastic activity to create collagen. But how do we transition? And that's where different cytokines and different interleukins and growth factors are at play here. And I think what eventually in the future would be ideal, and hopefully we get to this point, is how do we regulate those signals? Do we turn genes on and off that stop the inflammation at a certain point and start the regeneration at a certain point? So you're actually able to very much customize this treatment in the sense that you can turn it on and off, versus right now we inject that Sculptra and we're like, okay, here we go, we're gonna make collagen, and we don't really know when it's going to end. We kind of know. We know that between 6 to 8 weeks is when we wanna do another Sculptra treatment and start those fibroblasts to stimulate their activity again, but we don't really know. So then once that inflammation stops and we get the regeneration, what happens? So what happens is we get formation of collagen type 3, that's looser, more fine fibrils, and then we get collagen type 1. But those collagen fibers are not the same as what our body has had in the past and lost. They're not in loose arrays that are gently distributed throughout the dermis. Collagen, as we hopefully are aware, is part of the extracellular matrix, which is part of our structural system. And extracellular matrix is collagen, elastin, proteoglycans, hyaluronic acid, other sugar-based molecules, fibronectin. Fibronectin is a sugar-based molecule that actually helps cells adhere to each other, so that's why it stays together, it's cohesive, and everything isn't falling apart, and that's why it's structural. So it's important that we understand that the collagen formed after a chaotic inflammatory reaction is not the same as the collagen that we had natively in our bodies when we were born, our innate collagen. So that type 1 collagen, it's scar-like, it's dense, it looks more like a scar. I wish I could show you guys a picture on here. But it's very similar. In this lecture, I showed the differences between normal tissues and scar tissue, and we do need to understand this. It doesn't mean it's wrong. It doesn't mean it doesn't work the same and give us back that beautiful structure that we once had. It's just not the same microscopically and macroscopically. So when we talk about, are there surgical implications for biostimulators, like collagen biostimulators or whatever that may be, Yes and no, and I think this depends on which surgeon you ask. But at the end of the day, surgeons still cut, and you can cut through any material, and cutting also creates scar tissue ultimately. So, I think it does affect the surgical process when it comes to where was that product injected. Does it have, make it more difficult to find key structures that are used during surgery? I'm obviously not a surgeon, but at the end of the day, you're still a surgeon. You're going to cut through things, and you're going to have a good result. So doesn't mean you shouldn't do a biostimulator if you're going to get surgery. I don't think so. I think it's okay to get the biostimulator and still have surgery. That's my own personal result, or my personal opinion, and I have consulted with other surgeon friends that agree with me, and I'm sure some disagree, but that's okay. So that's what I think about with collagen. And then when it comes to other biostimulators, there are other different substances that are enhanced. So we're now finding that elastin is also stimulated to be created with some biostimulators. But collagen is the one we've always focused on. I encourage you to think outside of the box because we do create other things, and hydration is key. So hyaluronic acid, that's why we love hyaluronic acid fillers, right? But we don't want to become puffy. We don't want to increase that hydration so much. So that's why we like the biostimulators. But there's a balance. They all serve their purpose. And I hope that helps when you understand what a biostimulator does. There is other research that it's not only the fibroblasts that create the collagen, but macrophages. There are a bunch of different types of macrophages, of course, to make it more confusing. M1 and M2 macrophages actually have shown the ability to create collagen themselves, which is an interesting key. And then a little bit more about the fibroblasts, and then we'll conclude this session. But the fibroblasts there is evidence and research that suggests that fibroblasts become senescent. We do know that, the senescent meaning dead. And some research has shown that when you have senescent fibroblasts, they can actually be reactivated to then recreate collagen. But there's also evidence to show that a lot of our aging is due to accumulation of these senescent fibroblasts. So there are genes that are turned on and off that create the senescency of fibroblasts. Senescency, I think that's the word, a senescent fibroblast. And when you get buildup of this, it actually correlates to decreased collagen and aging. So that's kind of an interesting concept, and there's a good paper. I'm happy to send that over to you if you want any more information on that. And then another parallel I wanted to mention when it comes to scars, data shows that there's different types of collagen that's formed in different areas of a scar. So when you look at a keloid, the top of the keloid has more inflammation, it's more active. Then you get type 3 collagen more superficially, so it's the more immature collagen. And as you transition down into the base of the scar, it's type 1 collagen. So type 3 at the top, type 1 at the bottom, which is the more mature, fibrous collagen. And I just find that to be fascinating because there's a process of scar formation and a progression. So remind yourself to ask questions. Remind yourself that it's better to understand what a cell does, how it works, what it creates, what it produces, because then you don't have to memorize facts about certain treatments. And that's how we actually propel the field. So this whole concept of blind faithfulness and just saying, okay, I know it's collagen, it's a fibroblast, I don't really know what they do, but I know the names of them. It's not really useful to you or anyone else. So dive deeper into the science, ask questions. And one other treatment that's a biostimulating treatment is platelet-rich fibrin, platelet-rich plasma, and Easy Gel. And I can go into the science. I actually think I have a podcast on it that we've already filmed and recorded, but I can go into the science of that and platelets and what they secrete and how they secrete those things that creates the result. So platelets also have a role in collagen stimulation. Platelets also have a role in fibroblastic activity. And how do we get there? Let's just not memorize facts and cells. We should understand why. So I hope this was really helpful. I hope it stimulates your mind to ask yourself questions about collagen stimulators. Is it only collagen? Is it more than collagen? Why is it collagen? What types of collagen? And I will see you guys again next time.